Star Citizen is actually delivering some of its long-promised game systems, and to be honest, you might not like this one. Many players are learning just how much of this game they may actually enjoy or dislike. Cargo surprised many newcomers and veterans alike in 3.24. Today, I'm going to show you why engineering is likely to be the next Flashpoint, and maybe why you shouldn't be all that worried. Well, unless you like big spaceships. Thank you for coming to my Tomato Talk. Engineering is a combination of game mechanics that depend on systems like the resource network, components, charge and drain functionality, fuses, the fire hazard, and just simple old ship repairs. It has seen many iterations throughout the years, from subcomponents being shown off in 2019 to the developer preview of the resource network in 2020, functional power systems in 2021, and finally the combination of all of these in more recent videos. This wide-ranging set of features aims to completely change the way we view spaceships in Star Citizen. This, just like with physicalized cargo, wear and tear, and the damage system, and due to eventually be removed bed logging, is focused on making your ship feel permanent, long-term, like an actual home. Right now that seems a bit wild considering how often ships just blow up and need to be reclaimed, but we can see even from the recent monthly report explaining the removal of soft death that as the game becomes more stable and realized, so too should our reliance on long-term ship persistence. And that's what we're going to talk about today. That removal of soft death is essentially due to components becoming the primary means of damaging a ship instead of just the ship hull, beginning the transition of a focus on time to disable rather than time to kill. For more information regarding that change, check out my video in the corner here, or just wait a minute or two. Engineering is split into several parts, and if you want the deep dive on this, I was just joined by Ferrister this week to get deep into the details on my podcast on the second channel, as long as an actual deep dive with me in the stream on that same channel. I'll leave those linked down below for you. For now, here are the basics. First, there's the most obvious part of this gameplay: components and their damage system. Damage has been shifted from the hull to the components, meaning you won't exactly explode anymore after taking a bunch of damage. You may still explode though if your power plant reaches a critical level of health, but even then you'll have time to repair it or remove it from its socket. Maybe you could even use it as a bomb. This still does leave some questions about how the ship hull itself will receive damage, but we'll talk about that with ship armor in a bit. For all those times you think to yourself, how will this game ever matter if we die so often? This is one of those major changes that makes that just a little less true. This change also means you'll have the ability to repair your ship from being completely disabled in battle, avoiding needing to return to space stations or claiming your ship after a mistake or an attack from a player or NPC. Though your components will never go all the way back to 100% health again until you go back to a main repair location and get that long-term wear and tear taken care of. Up to size 2 components can also be hauled around in extra spaces to replace your active parts as well, so you have a lot of choices when it comes to component health. Though that is already a possibility in 3.24. The repair and management side of engineering focuses on the engineering terminal you'll find in larger ships, and to an extent on the power management system in smaller ships. It provides you with a layout of your ship, its components, rooms, doors, and all the information surrounding them. Your coolant, your atmosphere, your available power, all that jazz. From atmospherics to damage levels, you'll be able to monitor all parts of the ship, toggle power and resources, vent rooms, balance life support, and more. Best part is, you'll be able to set your own presets on a per ship basis when it comes to power management. These presets will be stored on your own PC, so you can always be a dedicated engineer for a specific class of ship that you know very well and people can rely on you for, or you can even export those presets out to your friends or your org if you'd like. Depending on the size of your ship and your group, you and friends will also be tasked with moving around the ship, keeping components up on performance, possibly putting out fires caused by damage, and replacing fuses. While the repair gameplay at heart is handled by a beam, there are going to be various elements of interactivity mixed into the overall mechanic of keeping a ship running in times of need. Components will also have the chance to malfunction or misfire the lower in health they get. This actually already happens with thrusters that take damage. You'll notice this a little bit with torque imbalances or if you just look at your thrusters after taking damage. But now I'm sure it's going to be a bit more noticeable. And I want to be exceptionally clear here, because players are already saying they don't want to randomly have problems with their components. Random misfires were not discussed in this announcement. Specifically, damaged, overheating, or old and degraded components would experience these problems.
Pretty much the idea is that, items that are damaged, that are too hot, or that, for example, are very old and degraded, will start misfiring.
Like that 96 Integra you still take out every couple weekends. Next up, you have armor and damage penetration. This is a precursor to Maelstrom, the fully simulated damage system. But even with this early iteration on the system, we're looking at a much different approach to ship combat than we've ever had. Now, certain weapons, like ballistics, will penetrate through the hull of a ship, damaging your components, while others, like energy weapons, will deplete your ship's hull armor value, providing some room for strategies and specific builds depending on what you're going up against. In the future, the caliber of the round you're firing will also be taken into account, as smaller arms likely won't have much effect on a massive warship bulkhead like you'd expect. But this is the first introduction of ship armor, something that must have been in discussion for well over half a decade at this point, and a huge part of ships lasting longer in-game and not just exploding from the damage you take from bumping into a rock or getting shot a couple times. This ship armor rating and the way it reacts to various weapon sizes, the penetration ratings, and the rates of fire in guns is going to be a huge part of how Star Citizen combat aims to grow more complex, despite various other parts of the flight experience seemingly taking a step back, leaning a bit more into a rock, paper, scissors kind of configuration of combat. Finally, the life support system acts as a balancing mechanic for ships. Each ship has a life support component with consumables that keep it running. Given ships are rated for certain crew sizes, if you clown car your ship with too many people, your life support system won't be able to keep up, resulting in players either needing to put on helmets or getting chucked out of the airlock. Life support will also allow you to control the temperature if you need to. It'll of course self-regulate the ship for you so you don't have to be active about it, but as temperature-sensitive cargo gets added to the game, or even personnel transport calls for unique settings, this will be a key option in customization when you want to set your baseline a little lower. You'll also have control over gravity settings, which can complicate things for boarding parties, or give you the choice of going all expanse with it and saving some power while you're flying. What we don't know yet regarding this system, though, is the long-awaited room system and how it will function with a true atmosphere gradient. Will we start to see explosive decompression as we open doors? Will you be able to wear no helmet in a technically vented room? Will doors no longer open automatically if they risk robbing the whole ship of its oxygen? And most likely those questions I just asked won't move forward just yet, as every ship needs to reach this system before they can set a standard of recognizing how atmosphere works in a ship, if you know what I mean. So while this set of systems coming into the game is exciting, it's also going to be incomplete, as you should always expect. And likely it will only benefit the most popular ships at first, as the vehicle team goes through each ship to bring it up to standard. This is something that was mentioned earlier this year, and the topic of my latest supporter video coming out later this month. But the big question is, how much is this going to ruin the game for you? So why should you be worried about engineering? Well, it is definitely going to make your ship feel more exposed, with components being able to slowly degrade over time, gathering temporary and permanent damage that needs to be repaired, and the possibility of glitches and malfunctions in your components and fuses. You'll definitely have something else to keep an eye on when you're flying around. For single-seaters, this probably won't be too bad. You'll need to take on the occasional repair either at a space station or when you get a chance to land, but this is true about basically any machinery out there in the real world. Over time, all that boosting, draining of the power plant, and overclocking of the shields can have an effect, but you as a player will have the choice of how much you actually stress your parts and ship, choosing to take it easy to extend the lifetime of your ship in between maintenance, or pushing things to the limits to get peak performance. This will also probably lead to heavily focused component customization. My speculation is that civilian or industrial components will be quite hardy and long-lasting, while performance and military components will require more upkeep. Besides that, higher grade components will make great incentives for crafting, exploration, and looting, as they can run more efficiently and give you better output. We've already been told that higher grade components will be showing up in Pyro to incentivize more exploration in the new system. So you should have a choice of how much you want to interact with these systems on your ship, and a pick of which components can curate that experience for you. As with all things, it's going to be a game of trade-offs. But for the multi-crew pilot, or really any ship with an interior, you're going to have more to consider. Your power management regarding turrets, life support, and even the gravity on your ship will need to be taken into account. The more rooms you have, the more spaces you need to consider. While your Zeus CL may carry twice as much cargo as the Spirit C1, it'll also call for more power and better balancing of your systems. And this could make the difference in what ship you choose. Just like with the cargo requirements in this game, obviously a smaller, simpler ship is going to be easier for you to just get in and go play than a larger ship with more things going on. And just like with VTOL thrusters, exterior stored cargo, or the inclusion of a tractor beam, your ship choice is going to be key. But that's not to say the mechanic is going to ruin your time flying the Constellation, Corsair, or even C2 Hauler. I'm not going to get into the possibility of NPC crews in the future in this video, but I'm sure we'll get to that at some point. Sure, you're going to spend more downtime or quantum travel fixing up your components and keeping things perky, but it's not going to be impossible to solo fly your big ship. Probably just not super efficient, especially in combat. Combat, if you haven't noticed, is the main place this is going to make the biggest difference in the second-to-second maintenance of your ship. Much like with Sea of Thieves, you'll have to balance the actions of defending your ship, keeping it running, and piling damage onto your foes. For you industrial and more civil players like myself, things probably won't get too hectic. You may want to keep up to date on an hourly basis with your ship, especially if you're running mining lasers, refiners, or salvage beams, but your general purpose ship will likely be pretty easygoing under a system like this. In fact, this may actually benefit you more than you realize. Instead of needing to return to a station or literally just respawn anytime you take too much damage to limp out of the atmosphere and back to a space station, this kind of development will add to your ability to fix things on the spot, right there in space or down on the ground, and keep going about your day. Or maybe you'll find an abandoned ship that nobody cared to come collect, swap out a component or two, throw in some repairs, and take it for yourself. This could very easily be the new meta salvaging gameplay, especially in the harder to reach areas of Pyro. And what we've covered here isn't everything planned for engineering. We still have not gotten to hear much about the position of tuner, who may be more involved in overclocking ship components and buffing a ship during the power sequence. We also didn't talk about role selection here. As the captain of your larger multi-crew ship, you'll be able to choose which parts of the ship and which systems each player has access to. So your janitor isn't, powering up and down your turrets. With this iteration of engineering, there's still a lot to learn, and while it may sound like disheartening gameplay to some, a system that only adds to the tedium or gives you another job to do, I do believe it'll be something you can mostly avoid. Thanks for watching this video. Engineering is one of the more exciting parts of the overall goal of Star Citizen for me, and I look forward to trying it out solo and with our org GII. If you're interested in following more of Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, I release videos like this every week with context from the past, plans for the future, and information about the present. Subscribe here and check out my second channel for more in-depth deep dives and podcast episodes too. I hope you learned something new in this video, and I'll catch you in the next.